Hi, my name is Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and welcome to this SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversations at Home with Dylan McDermott. Today's guest is an Emmy Award nominee, a Golden Globe Award winner, and a multiple SAG Award nominee. Just in the last year, he's appeared in American Horror Story 1984, The Politician, and of course Hollywood, where he plays Ernie West. Please welcome Dylan McDermott. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Because this is primarily an audience of SAG actors who watch this, I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
You know, funny enough, it was an open call. I actually just posted on my Instagram yesterday because of Veterans Day, and it was an open call. I went back 7 times. I never thought in a million years I would get the part. So I was, when you have that freedom about, you're like, I'm never going to get it, so who cares? It was a movie called Hamburger Hill.
It was Hamburger Hill. Wow.
A movie in 1986. We shot it in the Philippines during the coup with Aquino, and it was rough. I was like, man, this is making movies. I don't know. But anyway, that's how I got my SAG card from that movie.
I love hearing that it was an open call, because people think, especially pertaining to your new series, people think it's who you know, it's, these games you have to play, and you went on an open call and just booked it.
And I'll tell you, it still sticks with me too, because of that very reason. There's always a chance to get a part. There's always something that happens, somebody falls out, you're in the right place at the right time, and suddenly you're in front of the camera. So, I think you just always have to be ready.
Are you generally good at auditioning, or you must have been?
I think there was always a feeling of, I never gave myself a plan B to do something else. People always say, oh, you got to have something to fall, especially when you're an actor, you should have something to fall back on. And I was like, I'm never having anything to fall back on. I have to get this job to eat, to pay the rent. So I think having that as my mindset, auditions were important because I had to live.
Absolutely. And I mentioned in the intro, it's been a busy year. It's one thing to be on like a hit TV show. It's quite another to have 3 simultaneously. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know obviously all these shows have Ryan Murphy in common, and I'm kind of curious, what's the secret to that enduring relationship? It's been 10 years now, right?
Yeah, it's got to be probably 10 years plus. I think that we just, it's like any relationship, it's trust. I think trust is a huge part of any relationship. And I think that Ryan trusts me and I trust him. I know he's going to give me a part that I can fly with and do, and he lets me go and he doesn't have to worry about me. He's just like, oh, give it to Dylan, and I got a million other things going on. He can handle it. So he knows I'm going to come off the bench and I'm going to score my points. I'll get my block shots. I'm going to get my steals. So he knows he can trust me.
How did you first meet him? Do you remember?
American Horror Story.
Really? Again, was it he just cast you, or was there a process?
No. I'm always looking for, and I'm actually even still doing it today. I found another young director that I thought was incredible. She's someone I want to really work with. But when I saw Ryan, I was doing homework, as I always do, and Nip Tuck. I watched Nip Tuck and I was like, wait a minute, this guy is special. This guy is going places. I want to get on this train. And I read the pilot for American Horror Story, and I was like, whoa, this show. And I only felt that a couple times in my life. And The Practice was 1, American Horror Story was 2, where I called my agent. I said, I have to do this show. I want to meet with Ryan, ASAP. So I met with him and Connie, and we just hit it off, and the rest is history, really. But it was again, doing that kind of homework is so important. Watching, reading scripts, watching TV shows, finding the next person who's coming up. I think all that stuff is invaluable.
It's sort of interesting because when he originally cast you, he cast you as a fairly decent guy. I mean, he had some characteristics, yeah. But overall, and he turned out to be a nice guy. But on several occasions, he's cast you as really unsavory characters. I don't know if that's just a result of being in his universe, but when he comes to you, like with this last iteration of American Horror Story and says, like, you're going to play like the grossest serial killer of all time, like, do you take that as a compliment?
Well, you know what I liked about him, about Bruce, I actually gave him the name Bruce. They had another name for him. And I was like, I think his name was Chris or something. I was like, this guy doesn't seem to be this Chris character. Can I be Bruce? And they're like, sure, you can be Bruce. But anyway, I thought that Bruce was really funny because he had a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. He was a wannabe serial killer.
Yes.
And I just thought that was such a great thing to play, and you see it all the time, people who want to be other people, the sycophant. So I was doing that show, American Horror Story, 1984, and Hollywood at the very same time. So I'd go from set to set, playing these wildly different characters. And I think it was probably the happiest I've ever been artistically to be able to do that.
Really? You wouldn't get them confused, like,
No.
into like a silvery tongued serial killer.
Yeah, that was the fun, just to, explore the two different worlds and use all those skills that I had studied in acting school and character work. I think the difference now with my career is that I'm really getting into the character work that I've never been able to do before because I was sort of like caught up in the leading man thing. And now that I'm a little bit older, I can do the character work that I've always loved and always wanted to do. So I think that's really helping me to thrive right now.
Did you find you were getting, I don't want to say typecast, because at least being typecast is a type of casting. So I know people are happy for the work, but did you sort of chafe at the leading man roles, or did you enjoy it at the time?
Again, there was always the element of, who doesn't want to be a leading man? That's always a great thing. But I don't know if it was entirely me. I think that these characters that I'm playing now are much more interesting to me. I think I've really dropped into who I am as an actor. And that takes a minute. It takes a minute to define who you are. My acting teacher, Sanford Meisner, said it takes 20 years to become a great actor. I actually would like him to amend that and say it takes 30 years. It just takes forever to get really good at this thing. And, but I'm just in a sweet spot right now. Artistically, I'm just in me, I've really dropped into who I am, and I'm no longer doing this work for you. I'm doing it for me.
Mm-hmm. And that hasn't always been the case?
I think, as a young actor, you want to impress, you want to show people that you're a good actor. But I think when you let all that go and you realize that this is for me, this is because I love it. I've always loved it. I've always really I've never became an actor to be rich and famous. I became an actor because I really do love it. And I still love it to this day. Even, during Hollywood, I loved Ernie. So I fell in love with Ernie. And that's when you know that this work is fulfilling, is when you fall in love with a character. I didn't want to leave. Most people want to do their job and leave. There were times when I sat in my trailer and I didn't want to leave because I wasn't done with Ernie.
Yeah.
Or he wasn't done with me. Either way, I wasn't sure.
How does it work? Does Ryan sort of tell you, I have something new for you, and it's an automatic yes? Or how did you sort of first discover not only Ernie, but the story of Hollywood and how I'd be doing this revisionist history sort of take?
Yeah. I'll answer the first part of that question, which is, Ryan, the best days are when Ryan calls you and says, I'm writing you a part. You're like, so he told me he was writing me a part, and then I didn't hear from him for a while. And then he goes, come to my office. And I came to his office and I read the pilot for Hollywood. And I was like, what? My mind was completely blown. I had no idea about the gas station, Scotty Bowers, this whole world that existed, this sort of Babylonian thing I knew was out there, but not on this particular level. And I was just enamored. and then we started to discuss what the character was of Ernie. And initially, he wanted Ernie to have a crew cut, and I just didn't see him having a crew cut. I have a poster of the Misfits in my house here, and Clark Gable is always staring back at me. So I use Clark as a muse with Scotty Bowers, and I came up with this guy, and you know, sometimes in acting, these parts come along and they're very rare when it all just clicks on every single level. And that's what keeps you going. And that's what happened with Ernie. He just clicked. I got out of the way. You know, when I was in that hair and makeup trailer and I put those clothes on, I had underwear made for Ernie. I mean, I was just in him 100%. And like I said, it was just love. The love came out of this guy, the ebullience, the optimism. Even though he was a sick man, there was an optimism about him that I absolutely adored.
That's so interesting because we don't ever see his underwear. Is this just something you had made for you to help the character? Let me guess, is it like silk or satin?
No, but actually I did the same thing in American Horror Story. Even though nobody sees it, it's important for me. You know, I don't care if you know.
Yeah.
It's that I know, you know, that I'm filling in all the blanks here. There's nothing, you know, I even, when I build characters, I even think about what they eat. You know, I really like to know the whole history of who someone is. So with Ernie, I wrote an acting book once for myself and never published it or anything like that, but it was for myself. And I have 50 questions that I always ask myself when I get an acting part. And I have to answer each one, and it takes a long time. And when I have those questions answered, I think that I'm always full when I arrive on set. There's no blanks. There's no like, I wonder if he should do it. No, I understand exactly who he is. And I think that's really important because, you know, that camera never lies and it can see the cracks. I can always tell when someone's a little bit lost or they don't know what's really going on, because acting at the end of the day is always understanding. If you understand the character, you will never have to worry. It's when you don't exactly understand and you're trying to maybe rewrite the script somewhere that you get into trouble.
How much, I know the character is sort of loosely based on Scotty Bowers. Did you read his book? Did you know much about him?
Initially I didn't know much about him, but then the documentary really informed me, because again, you know, research is always, it's like being a detective, you know, an actor. You got to do the research. You got to find out who people are. I always try to find real people, whoever I'm playing. I've researched so many characters along my career, but with Scotty, watching the documentary, he said something so important, and that really infused and informed my character. He said, "I'm up for anything." And I was like, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. And that really just stayed with me the whole time. There's no boundaries. There's no borders. I mean, he's just like, let's do it.
I'm so glad you won the crew cut discussion, by the way, because I love his whole look. Did you grow the mustache, or was that?
Yes, it was a mustache. And when I was doing 1984, they put another mustache on top of my mustache. So I may be one of the few actors that had two mustaches in the history of television.
What's it like, though, to go about your daily life with a pencil thin mustache?
It's not easy. You have to rock the right outfit because, you know, that mustache doesn't go over everything, you know. You can't wear like a sweatsuit with that mustache. You kind of have to be elegant all the time. So it wasn't easy, but well worth it.
You always, from the beginning, have worked with these amazing ensembles, and Hollywood is certainly no exception. And you have people who are brand new to TV, like Jeremy Pope, you know, who's never acted in front of a camera before, to these great veterans like Patti LuPone, and you're reunited with Holland Taylor, who you worked with on The Practice. That must have been thrilling.
Oh my gosh. I told Holland, you know, that scene in the bedroom is one of my favorite scenes I've ever shot. There's something about that scene that really has stayed with me and has resonated with me for a long time. after we shot it. And, I love her. I think she's a wonderful actress. And there was something about that relationship and that scene that was one of the high points of my career, I have to say. I just, this idea of finding love late, someone being sick, love in general, what does it look like, spending your days with the person that you love, even though there's so little time left. I just thought that was all really romantic and beautiful.
Yeah. It's such a great cast from top to bottom, and it must be fun to be on a Ryan Murphy show where, like, every day you look at the call sheet and you get to share a scene with another great actor.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's, Ryan attracts the best actors. He has the most incredible taste in actors. And, so I think everyone's clamoring to work with Ryan because of that. So yeah, of course there's going to be the best actors and then also the best hair and makeup team, the best cameraman, the best ADs. He surrounds himself with such professionals on every single level. And I think that's why you get the product that you do.
So it looks like it was so much fun to shoot this, it's so gorgeous to look at. But what did end up being the biggest challenge of playing Ernie?
I think really, anytime you play anyone, there's always a cliche. There's always a cliche that's sort of like sneaking around the set and looking over your shoulder, And I think with Ernie, it could have easily been a mustache twirling, it could have been, the sickness is always a delicate thing to play. How sick should you be? How much coughing should you do? All that stuff is something that I would definitely look at in the script and decide where I should cough or not cough, or be sick in this scene or not be sick, So I think it's always a delicate balance when you're playing a character. And I think that the pitfalls are really the cliche of the bad guy, the pimp, the guy who's exploiting these boys, all that stuff. I could have easily kind of been fallen into the trap of that. And I was aware of it, having done this a long time now. I'm aware of the pitfalls of playing characters and how much and how little you should put into it.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting to watch it all in one sitting because I wasn't sure where this guy was going. Yeah. And by the end, I was surprised by not only how complex he was, but how much I cared about him. Yeah,
I think that's true. I think it's really important that, you always have to find the things that you love about a person when you're playing someone. My daughter was telling me she's doing a little high school play, and she goes, I don't know, I like this guy, And I was like, well, you got to find what you love about him. What is it that you love about him? I said, you can't judge a character that you're playing. You really have to find what you like about him.
To that end, what do you like about Theo Sloan, your character on The Politician? I'm having a little trouble finding things to like about him.
Well, the thing about Theo, which was really interesting, is that, seemingly, again, he's a bad guy, but, he's teaching his daughter how to survive in this world, this vicious world that he is living in, clearly. And he's toughening her up so she can win. His whole thing about life is winning. That's all he cares about, whether it's on the tennis court or it's in finances, and I'm sure in prison where he is now. It's all about how is he going to win. But I think that he did have a real love for his daughter. I know he showed it in a really messed up way, but there was something about that he was doing it for her. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for a silver lining with Theo, that would be it.
And I know that show's returning for its second season in June. I don't know if you know anything about it or if you're allowed to say anything.
I wasn't a part of the second season, so I don't know too much about it.
Okay, so he's in jail plotting his revenge.
No, unfortunately.
But I did hear, is this true? Ryan's creating a new show for you and Leslie Jordan?
That's what he said. which I think will be the funniest show of all time. Leslie and I are great friends, and I think he and I together are just, it's the odd couple.
Yeah.
So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a home run. I can't wait to start that show.
Do you know anything about it, or do you just not ask?
You don't ask. You don't ask because he's the genius and he will present it, whatever it is. He did write something on his Instagram that, I was a former masseuse.
Okay.
That's all I know right now. And it will be a comedy, that's for sure.
It will, or you'll
Yes.
make sure it is.
100%, yes.
That must be so great to know that there's somebody out there who's, not only thinking about you, but actively creating work for you.
I mean, there's really nothing better. Really, you really want to be involved with people that, I love Ryan. He's a friend of mine. I consider him a friend, and to work with people that you care about, and they're creating such incredible content, working with incredible people. I mean, all that stuff is a dream come true because it's really hard out there. It's hard to find those people. A lot of times you kind of stumble in and out of one job to the next. Doesn't really work. Nobody knows about it. That's the life of most actors. It's like, it's really, really hard. I'm very aware of that. I'm very lucky. But so to have somebody like Ryan in my corner is truly a wonderful blessing.
It's so great to get to do the work, but it's also great that people are recognizing it. I mean, Ryan is a hit machine. So, people are watching his stuff. And so often that's not the case. You can do something you really love and it just doesn't find an audience.
No, it really doesn't. And that's, like I said, that's, I've had those times too. 10 years goes by. And that was like, oh yeah, I didn't see that. Where was that? What channel is that on? Oh, where can I find that? That's like 10 years. So, it's not, but I always tell myself the same story, which is, again, I'm doing this for me. Whether I did a play in New York one time, and I think there were 3 people in the audience. And I busted my ass. It was like 3 hours of me on stage. I'm sweating, I'm crying, I'm bleeding out. And, at the end, it was like, and then I realized, though, I took a long walk home that night, and I was like, the penny really did drop. And from that moment, that's really has stayed with me. I was like, oh no, you got it all backwards. You're doing this for the craft. You're doing this for the art. You're not doing it for the approval of the other. It doesn't matter if you have $10 million or you have $1. And I always tell people who say, oh, do you have any advice for being an actor? I was like, yeah, you have to love it. If you love it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all about the love. So go ahead and do it as long as you love it. But if you're looking for money, power, and fame, do not do it.
To that end, I'm kind of curious if people, run into you on the street or whatever, what is it that they want to talk to you about most? Is it the bad guys, Hollywood right now? Well, I guess we're not really out on the streets right now. So,
yeah. I've done so much that it always surprises me what people bring up, what movie or what television show. Obviously, American Horror Story is huge, and Hollywood is huge right now, and The Practice, and In the Line of Fire, or Steel Magnolias. All these movies and television shows that now has been my career for 30-something years. People will bring up, and that's the cool thing, is that because it touched them in some way, it meant something to them. And I think that's what this is all about. This entertainment business is that we get to touch people. We get to make people feel. We get to entertain people. And you don't know exactly where or how or when you're going to do that. But I know now, having the evidence of my career, is that it really does. It really does touch people.
Is there one project that maybe doesn't get as much love as the others that kind of gives you a special thrill when people bring it up?
Yeah, I think there's several really, that I enjoyed that maybe got a small audience. There's one little movie out there right now where I play a a serial killer. He's a family man, and it's a really complex role. And I was in that character for a couple of months. It's called the Clove Hitch Killer. And I put a lot of energy and time into that character. That's one. Wonderland, the John Holmes story with Val Kilmer. I like that movie a lot. And let me see if there's anything else out there that I really love. I think those two kind of stick with me over time because again, it's character work that we were talking about before, things that people don't necessarily recognize me. They don't even know it's me. People say that about Hollywood as well. I didn't even know it was you. I had Frances Fisher actually. She said that she texted me saying that she had to look in the credits to see who the actor was playing her.
No way.
Yeah, I had a few people say that to me, which is the biggest compliment you could ever give me because, when you disappear into a character like that, that's what it's all about.
I know it's fairly recent, but I was actually a big fan of LA to Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so happy someone finally thought to put you and Dermot Mulroney in a scene together.
It's the best. We had a blast. I mean, because it's been, 30 plus years of confusion. And still to this day, people are confusing our names. So it was great to finally kind of, just be together and laugh about all the confusion.
Had you met him over the years and laughed about it, or was that the first time?
There was less laughter early on. I remember Sue Mengers, she was the great agent at William Morris. We were both at William Morris, and she was walking down the hall, and I was at William Morris at that time. And she ran into me, and she said, "There can only be one."
It's not even...
What is that? There can only be one. Dermot Mulroney or Dylan McDermott, but there can only be one.
Well, she's brilliant, but she was wrong.
Yes. There's been room for both of us. We both had nice careers. So we joked about, can you imagine if we did have the career that was meshed together, the two of us? Wow. That career would have been fantastic.
Well, you're both doing pretty well on your own, so yeah. Before we go, I want to remind everyone you can find information about SAG-AFTRA Foundation's COVID-19 Relief Fund in the comments. And I'm just sort of asking everyone I talk to, during this very strange time, obviously the creative arts is so important. What are you reading or watching that's sort of like keeping you going and interested during this time?
I've really been, I've been writing a lot. And I would encourage every actor to do this, actually, to write their own story. Write the story of your life. What it does is it connects you in a way that you never thought possible. Because, life is very dreamy a lot of the times. Memory is sort of like, did it happen? Did it not happen? What happened? I think when you write it and write the story of your life, it deepens you and it connects you in a way that I never thought was imaginable. So I've been spending a lot of my time doing that, whether I publish it or not. Again, it doesn't matter because the book is for me. And I've really been enjoying that and going back into time and retracing my steps and reliving all these memories as a child has really been so important. So I've been spending most of my time doing that.
Are you writing a memoir that we might be able to read someday?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe, we'll see. Might be a little too harrowing, but we'll see.
We like harrowing. Well, I want to remind everyone that all the episodes of Hollywood, I was going to say Hollywood and The Politician, are actually available on Netflix now. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on a great year and another great role.
Thank you so much. So nice talking to you.
You too.
All right. Be safe.